And so again, you look at these things, oh, these are just black and white images. Well, no, when you look at them, you can, when you see what they've done, you see the surviving examples of the garments, when you see the images that have been tinted, you can say, no, these people did have color. They like color. They use color a lot. And one thing that's especially 19th century about this gentleman down here in the lower right is he's wearing this red shirt and then this vest that's got some wacky pattern on it. They love things that clash. Different kinds of plaids, we consider it to be loud and obnoxious today.
Very different aesthetic.
Oh yeah, it was a very different aesthetic. It was one of those things that if it screamed out, if it was different, it wasn't necessarily a bad thing. And just to give you this little prop piece here to demonstrate that. This is a man's wallet from right about the Civil War period, and it is lined with this wonderful magenta paper.
Beautiful color.
It's a beautiful color. But again, not all men would be willing to carry something like that today. But back in the 1860s, wow, you'd be really stylish to have something like that. But where you see hand coloring a lot is, again, they rouge the cheeks because you want to look healthy. You want to have those roses in your cheeks. So you see a lot of that. You see a lot of picking out jewelry in gold. We have an image in the case over there that's a young couple, and it's a very simple image. It's just taken against a canvas backdrop, so it's probably taken some traveling photographer studio. They're wearing the best clothes they have, but his vest is very baggy on him. It's very loose fitting. So it's probably not his vest. It's a very nice silk vest, but he probably borrowed it from a brother or an uncle or his father. And you can actually see on her finger, she's actually wearing a ring that's been picked out with gold, as has some of the buttons on her shirt and everything. So we like to think, we have no way of knowing for sure, but it may be their wedding picture, or taken shortly after their wedding. So, yeah, a lot of times you will see the jewelry picked out with gold. If you see pictures of gold miners, oftentimes those have rocks in their gold pan, but the photographer's gone back and painted them all gold. I mean, if they had this many rocks that were gold, they'd be richer beyond belief, but we'd like to think that. But yes, they often do little spots of gold in these things for jewelry and things like that. Sometimes they just go for accent pieces on the clothing. On the far right over here, you can see there's a young woman. We actually have her in the case as well. But she's got a red choker that's been picked out there, and some other little red trim on her dress that's been done. So sometimes we're just accenting little parts of the clothing rather than doing the whole thing. Again, because it was expensive, and somebody had to sit and hand paint all this stuff. So again, the idea was here this is supposed to be cheaper than hand painting. So you wouldn't want to go for too much tinting there unless you could really afford it.
The funny thing is, they were still doing that in the 1950s.
Yeah, that's one of those things that, and that's, it's one thing I think sometimes you take for granted today, and now especially with digital cameras. I mean, that we have instant photographs.
Yeah.
It was something that, it's kind of hard to overstate how amazing this was to the people who lived at the time, that you could actually, have your, that was a period of time, get my likeness taken. Oh, I'm going to go get my likeness taken. And the pride they took at that, and just the thrill that they had from being able to actually get these images, and there's so many of them that survive, but so many of these are such treasured keepsakes. Whether it was a picture of a friend or a family member. I mean, this case image here, just as my wife and I discovered this morning, and this was a treasured memento to this woman of her departed husband, and she obviously took very good care of it. It was obviously kept among her things very well, and unfortunately it's gotten separated from the family it once belonged to. But it's one of those things that as long as we're around, we're going to see to it that has a good home. Mm-hmm. But so again, you can learn so much about the people, both as individuals, their standing in life, and their culture just from looking at these images. And another one, I think there's a couple more slides. There's another subset of 19th century photography that's really fascinating to look at. These are occupational images. And that was, if you were a tradesperson, you would want to be photographed with the tools of your profession. And, because that was one of the things, one of the Victorian ethics was work. And one of the great things about our little case here that shows the gentleman with the little scrap of newspaper behind the morning phone, his union case is just full of 19th century images of industry. There's the beehive, which is, because what could be busier or more productive than bees? And there's just plows and scythes and things all over the place. There's the cross scythes and things in the corners. There's even a cross pick and shovel for the mining community out there. That's because the Victorians were just obsessed with progress and were marching boldly toward the future, and especially in the United States, because this was a great experiment here, and we were doing this grand republic, and we're marching boldly toward the future. And we were so proud of our industry. I mean, American industry is just on the Industrial Revolution was getting going, and so we were making our future here, physically making our future. And so you'll see things like the stonecutter upper right there. And here he is. He's dressed very nice. He's wearing a white dress shirt. He's got this very nice vest on with a striped fabric. Yet he's got this big block of stone in front of him. He's got his chisel and his hammer, and he's standing there posing proudly with the tools of his trade. Then next to him, you have a gentleman there with he's got his apron on. I'm not quite sure what kind of
He's got a lock.
He's got a lock. Okay, so he's actually a locksmith.
Yeah.
And then next to him,
There's the watchmaker.
the watchmaker, right? You actually just kind of barely see his hand there. He's got his watch. And again, the locksmith is wearing more of his laboring clothes. You can see he's actually got his sleeves rolled up. He's wearing a very plain vest, a fairly simple hat, and he's got his dirty apron on. And so it's kind of the variation. Sometimes you'll see them really wanting to look like they're wearing their everyday clothes. Oftentimes, like the stonemason and the watchmaker, they'll be dressed up for the camera, even though they're just doing like facial image. Then we have the police officer, obviously, with his badge there. Seamstress, posing with her sewing machine. And that was a real prize because those were just coming in the mid-late 1800s. And then at the bottom right there, we see that blacksmith, holding his horseshoe there like he's about ready to start pounding it on the anvil. Of course, in front of the camera, once he's doing that, it's probably a very cold horseshoe, but he still looks the part. But that was the thing, if you see occupational images, that can tell you so much about the industry. I mean, especially when it's taken like the blacksmith down there, it actually looks like either it's set in his shop, and it's kind of cropped down here, or it's in the photographer's studio, and the blacksmith has just brought a lot of his own tools there to make it look like it's his shop. But these are great because they give you a little insight into the way they work. And we can actually see on the table there how his tools are laid out, or the seamstress and the way she's sitting at her machine, and the clockmaker and how his tools are laid out before her on the desk. It's really neat to see things like that because one of the things that's happened with the Industrial Revolution is it kept going. The machines kept getting better and better, and they kept replacing skilled laborers to a certain extent. And the factories kept getting either remodeled or torn down, and new factories built in place, and ultimately now there's parking lots and condominiums. So a lot of this 19th century industry, the early stage of the American Industrial Revolution, had been lost. And oftentimes things like newspaper engravings that occasionally show the inside of the factories, or these occupational images, are really the only clues to the way the industries work. Is that the slide? Yeah. That's the end of the slideshow. So that's our presentation. 19th century photography is a fascinating study, and I just hope that you can walk away with anything from this is that when you see a picture of an individual, even if you don't know anything about who this person is, these images aren't entirely silent. Even if it's lost the name that once went with it, you can still look at it and start recreating some details about the person's life, about their socioeconomic status, what career they had, if any. What means were at their disposal. And you can look at that just from, were they able to get a 1/6, totally uncolored image, or were they able to get a full plate that was fully colored? Do they have their tools, their trade? What kind of image is it? Is it a daguerreotype or a tintype or a ambertype? Is there anything with it that can be identified? And you can start working and seeing what you can find out about these people and about the world they lived in. So thank you very much. If you have any questions, I'll try and answer for you.
Bravo.